Next up, we have Deepinder Singh. Deep co-founded 75F in 2012 after designing some of the world's fastest core networks for Tier 1 service providers like AT&T, NTT, and Verizon. With almost 25 years of experience in electronics and computing, he's brought a wealth of embedded products to the market. His key goal in every endeavor is to simplify operational complexity and make products intuitive. Deepinder will be presenting Smart Solutions and Prove Your Bottom Line. Please join me in welcoming Deepinder Singh.
Morning, everyone. So I have a confession to make. Okay, I'm not from the facilities management side at all. I'm not even from the HVAC side. So I'm a network geek. Right? So any of you use Verizon here? Some of you? Yeah. There's a 95% chance it goes over a network that I did. Right? So my claim to fame was I had one of the world's first terabit routers sitting in my garage for 5 years. So when I sent that back, my wife made me put a nice big heater in the garage. We're in Minnesota, just to keep ourselves warm. But what ended up happening was my daughter was 1, and we moved her into her own room. But she would wake up in the middle of the night crying. And I was trying to figure out what was going on. And what had happened was the thermostat was in the master bedroom, and we were west-facing. So the sun would come in the evening, it would warm up that room, we'd be nice and comfortable. But she was in the room right next door, and it would be 10 degrees colder. So she would be cold, and she'd just scream at night and wake us up. So as a self-respecting engineer, I did what I should have done. I quit my job to fix the damn problem. Right? Which is why I'm here. I'm here to talk about smart buildings and how they can improve your bottom line. You see, what ends up happening is in a typical building, you're spending about $2 a square foot a year on the energy cost. You spend about $20 a square foot on the building itself, on the rent, on the maintenance, and so forth. But you end up spending about $200 a square foot on the people inside the building. So the most valuable asset inside the building is actually the people, right? And so when you're working and you're doing stuff, you're breathing out CO2. So you essentially end up, at the end of the day, feeling sluggish, drowsy, and all of those things. It's interesting, even after lunch, when we have that lull, we keep blaming it on the food. But interestingly, we look at buildings, and the CO2 levels have risen at that point. So that's really what's causing you to be slower. Because, you know, when you panic, what do they say? Breathe into the bag. And the reason they do that is because when you re-breathe CO2 levels, it slows down your metabolic system. This is the vagus nerve which gets activated, and that's what causes you to slow down. So it's the CO2 levels which actually cause you to slow down, interestingly, in many buildings. Right? So Harvard did an interesting study. It's called the COG effect study. And what they found is, at the end of a day, in a regular building versus what's called an enhanced green building, people in those enhanced green buildings had 101% better efficiency at cognitive processing tasks. Think, if you could do your work in half the time, no more overtime, you could have your weekends all to yourself, just because you're working smarter. And some companies are recognizing this. So this is, anyone know about this building? This is called The Edge. So it's out in Amsterdam. So Deloitte created this. This building has 40,000 sensors built into it, right? And the primary reason they did it is so that the people can be comfortable and they can be productive. So that's why they actually built this building. But they built it at a cost of $50 million just for the control systems. And the primary reason is because control systems are kind of like Lego blocks. They're very flexible. You can do a bunch of things with them. But it takes a Lego master, that's my friend Eric Ries, and to come in and make a bespoke solution. So you have to really work to make it happen. And that is extremely expensive. You have to do a lot of programming. You have to do a lot of coding to make it all come together. So the question that we were thinking is, like, can you make building controls much easier to put in? So to test that out, we did a project in an elementary school. A little bit of a difference, right? We actually asked the kids who were 7 and 8 years old to put in the system themselves.
Our building is known by the kids and the teachers here to have issues with the temperature. So when we turn the heat on, for example, it'll be hot on one side of the building and cold on the other, and it's very hard to regulate the temperature between room to room.
Stage 1 fan is always on.
Make it completely comfort.
Completely comfort?
Yeah, make it completely comfort.
No vacation schedule.
No vacation schedule.
Congratulations!
It's finished.
It was really neat because the kids had experience with the issues with temperature. They knew the problem. They were able to put their science knowledge and their math knowledge that they gained to practice in the real world. Another reason we wanted to bring in the system was we learned that it was environmentally friendly, which is it's a real plus for us. We believe in that, and we try to do everything so that we're recycling and we're kind to the environment. The kids really care about that too. They're real sensitive to a lot of different topics, and this is one of those things that they can really get behind.
So I was there, right? So their highlight, drilling holes in the school wall. Right. You also have to understand that I'm from India, so I have a little bit different perspective on child labor laws, right? So this is how we're going to fix the industry minimum wage, right? Right. But what I really want to say is, like, the reason why this was possible is two things which are coming together. One is what's called IoT, the Internet of Things. It's what allows you to essentially bring in sensors and put them cheaply across your entire building. In fact, every day, 5.5 million things are getting connected to the internet, right? That's going to be 20.8 billion devices connected by 2020. I mean, those are huge, staggering numbers. And as I said, the key is that you can put these sensors cheaply, that's the key, in every part and get a lot of data. But the second thing is, once you have all of the data, what ends up happening is cloud computing. Cloud computing allows us to crunch massive amounts of data, again, cheaply, right? So you can start making sense of all of this stuff. And when we bring the two together, that's when we can actually make buildings more intelligent, right? And healthy, intelligent buildings are great for the environment, they cut down the cost, and they improve productivity. So when we look at building intelligence, we want to talk not just about energy, but we want to talk about complete building intelligence, which includes the HVAC side, it looks at the indoor air quality, it looks at lighting, and it looks at energy management. So it's one unified platform which brings it all together. And typically speaking, we end up, as I said, with higher comfort. You end up with a lot of labor savings, as demonstrated by the kids, right? It's much easier to install. It's 10x faster to install than normal control solutions. And then you end up having one unified pane of glass that gives you insight into your entire operations. This includes the HVAC side, the energy piece that we talked about. In the case of restaurant, it looks at pressure, smoke, refrigeration, everything coming together as one unified view. Right? And it allows you to benchmark across multiple buildings in your portfolio. So you can compare what's going on in different parts of your portfolio, as well as digging deep down to figure out and isolate the problems in each of your buildings. Right? So that's the power of IoT and cloud computing. And that's what we say. You really want to address the triple bottom line, which includes the energy savings, the building health, as well as the employee productivity. So you want a complete, holistic, unified view if you really want to talk about the complete bottom line of your business. Right? So we say, then with IoT and cloud computing, you really want to dream big. And the interesting thing is, dreaming big is big money. It's going to be $75 billion to just process the data by 2020. So these are Gartner estimates. Right. But I'll leave you with one thought. Can you imagine 10 years from now, when you're sitting in your driverless car, and yes, you will all be, right, that buildings are going to be run in the antiquated manner that they are? Of course not. Someone's going to change that paradigm, and I believe it's this audience which is going to be part of that. Thank you.